I wanted to start this video off with a quick apology to Daron Payne. I did a poor job of covering the situation in which he punched Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then upon learning that Amon-Ra actually hit him first, I still used that as a way to discredit Payne in that moment. And that was unfair and it was wrong of me. So an apology to Daron Payne, and I promise to be better for you guys next time. But with that out of the way, let's get to today's video. Well, it's no secret that the Commanders season isn't exactly going as planned. So that's why I'm taking charge and rebuilding the team. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, and we're here to take a pause from the present, which has been relatively bleak this season, and to take a look at the future, which many of us, myself included, still have lots of hope and optimism regarding with this ownership, with this leadership in the general manager, with the building block pieces like Jayden Daniels. We believe that this team can still be good for a long time, but it's also not a secret that the way the roster has been built right now is not conducive to long-term success, whether it's some of the complementary pieces, whether it's the depth, whether it's the piling injuries. Things have not gone in a way that makes us feel confident this group of players is going to be the one to win us the Super Bowl. So I went ahead and I took the liberty of constructing a roster that I believe could potentially contend for something legit for the coming years. So in this video today, we're going to go through that. We're going to talk about how I arrived there, look at some of the players, how I would fill out this roster, and just take a look at just how many changes could be coming to this team in the upcoming offseason. Before we get into that, though, guys, make sure you do hit the like button. Also, hit the subscribe button if you're new around here. Jump down in the comment section below. Leave me your thoughts on this video as we go through it. And the link to join the Full Command Discord at the top, as always. I know that I mentioned that I give away stuff every month, but I also offer up $100 to anyone who correctly predicts the scores of the Commanders games. So, again, another reason for you guys to go ahead and join that. So let me talk to you about how I went about creating this roster. So Pro Football Network has a free agency simulator, which was a very fun tool to use. It was the first time that I've ever done something like this. You can go through the restructuring of contracts. You can franchise tag people. You can cut and release. You can sign new players. It was very fun, but I did the best that I could with their tool. And in the event that contracts weren't known or weren't really accurate, I would go look up, what was that player making right now? You know, if they're a 33-year-old veteran, I would say their upcoming deal probably going to be pretty similar to the 1 or 2 year deal they just signed before that. Or in the case of a player maybe coming off of a rookie deal, I went and I looked at existing contracts to see, okay, I think this player is about as good as this player, and this guy's making this much, so that's how much I'm going to offer him using this free agency tool. So I did that, and then I went to Pro Football Focus, did a mock draft, and walked away with a new rookie class as well. Also, one thing that I forgot to mention as I go back and I look at the edit of this video, I did all of this. I built the whole roster while factoring in Daron Payne's contract hit. So that was reflected in the amount of cap space that I had available. However, you will not see him listed with the defensive tackles as I thought the Commanders could trade him and use that extra space for cash overflow, cost overflow from contract values. And you could get another pick back, take your position, whatever you think is reasonable, or just imagine we have an extra 3rd round pick. Whatever the package would be, imagine we have that in the place of Daron Payne. So just wanted to throw that in there. So all in all, that was the methodology on how this roster was built. It was a lot of fun, do gotta say. So let's transition over, get the new edit up on the screen, and let's go through this roster position by position. It's like going back to the offseason when I was predicting which players were going to make the roster. This is going to be something similar. Now, the one key difference here is this is not a 53-man roster. You're going to sign some players that don't make it. Some guys are going to get traded. Some players are going to get released. Maybe it's not the most optimally balanced as far as position. Do you have the right amount of safeties versus tight ends versus corners versus edge rushers? That stuff still can be sorted out. Okay, this is not a 53-man active roster prediction, but it is still a look at what the roster could look like next season. So let's go ahead and let's jump into it. So let's start off with the quarterbacks. I'm going to keep 3 of them, and I'm going to keep Mr. Jayden Daniels. We got Mitchell Trubisky in free agency, and Sam Hartman is QB3. Now, if your QB3 gets on the field, whether it is Josh Johnson, whether it's Sam Hartman, you're going to be losing games anyway. I know Hartman has not looked good this year or last preseason, but whatever. He's Jayden's friend. He's going to be around. And again, if your QB3 gets on the field, you're going to be screwed anyway. I went for Trubisky because he is a little mobile. I didn't have the money to pay Mariota. Plus, he might want to pursue a starting job somewhere if there's a bottom feeder team that's interested in him. And Mariota, frankly, just deserves better. He deserves to be paid. If he can get a starting opportunity, he deserves it. Trubisky, still somewhat of a similar style player as Jayden. At least he can execute some of the mobile concepts. But he's a lot cheaper and he's a veteran, so you don't have to worry about the ups and downs of drafting a rookie in the 7th round, something like that. Moving on over to running back here. I'm going to keep 4 of them. You're going to notice a lot of the same names. We're going to keep Bill Krosky-Merritt, Chris Rodriguez Jr., Jeremy McNichols, and then I drafted Jamal Haynes out of Georgia Tech. I was able to get him in the 7th round of this mock draft. I really like that. I think he's one of those guys that can prove to be a steal. Not going to get on the field a ton as a rookie, but he's a guy who's got some elusiveness, some real speed, might be able to throw it to him out of the backfield when he gets his opportunities. And it's someone, receivers and running backs are similar to me right now, where you should pretty much be trying to stockpile them every draft, every couple of drafts. Just keep building and building and building, and then maybe pay your own guys, but you don't really want to dip into free agency and give out big contracts to guys at those positions. That seems to be the trend of the league right now. So those are our running backs. We'll move over to tight ends here. And we have a big change here because we have a new starting tight end, Zach Ertz. Thank you for everything that you did for this team. Do not have you back on the roster here. Our number 1 tight end is going to be Isaiah Likely from the Ravens, who will be backed up by John Bates, Ben Sinnott, and Colson Yankoff. And going back to what I was talking about earlier, as far as actually nailing the 53-man roster composition, the active roster, Yankoff might not be on the active roster if you were to go through and balance this correctly, but he would be around on the team. Ben Sinnott, obviously, they're going to try to continue to increase his workload. And hey, maybe by the end of the year, he's shown you enough to suggest getting Likely isn't even necessary. Or maybe you get a new tight end, but it's someone who doesn't cost as much money. But I do like Likely a lot. It's funny phrasing. His numbers aren't spectacular, but that's because he works in tandem with Mark Andrews. Lamar Jackson does a great job whenever he's targeting him. He's a big, strong body, a guy who is used to blocking and getting his hands dirty, blocking for the running backs, but he's also got a very nice pair of hands, and he can run after the catch a little bit. You keep your blocking with Bates. Sinnott is a combination of both, and then Yankoff also adds special teams value to that as well. So there's my tight ends. My tackles, I had the Commanders keeping 4 of those guys. You're going to recognize the starters, obviously, Laramie Tunsil and Josh Connolly Jr. I also listed Brandon Coleman here just because he gives you flexibility of guard tackle, and I have 4 actual guards, so I wanted to put Coleman here as a potential backup tackle. And then Dan Skipper, who you'll recognize from whenever the Lions do their funky stuff. They'll line him up at the X receiver. They'll throw him a pass. They'll do weird stuff with him, but it's a veteran, a guy you can get for the cheap, a lot of experience, comes from a great system in Detroit, knows how to come in and do a good job, whether he is filling in as a backup, whether he is that 6th offensive lineman, someone who could do a good job there. At the guard spot, like I mentioned, I have 4 of them, and it is 4 actual guards, but also a little bit of positional versatility. The starters would be Chris Paul, brought him back on a new deal, Sam Cosmi, Greg Van Roten, who again, a mid-30s free agent veteran, guy who knows he knows he's coming in to play that backup role. You can get him for the cheap. And then Brock Hoffman, who is still relatively young. If I were to guess, I would say he's 27 or so. And like I said, he has positional flexibility because he has played guard. He has played center. I think he's actually started at center for the Cowboys. So a guy who you'll see in my centers in just a second. Matter of fact, why don't we go over and change it? I only have 1 center here, and to nobody's surprise, that's going to be Tyler Biadasz. One of the luxuries about this current group of guys is Nick Allegretti was prepared to play center in the event that he needed to for Biadasz. We saw Dieter get on the field a couple of times last season, and it didn't always look very good. So Hoffman could be the guy who moves on over and takes those snaps at center in the event anything were to happen to Biadasz. And then let's close out the offense by talking about the wide receiver group, one of the most controversial units on the Commanders, one of the most injured units on the Commanders. I have them keeping 6 guys, as you can see on your screen right now. Without further ado, let's run through it because I actually think this is a very interesting unit. So the number 1 receiver is Terry McLaurin. You can entertain the trade talks during the offseason, but just for the sake of this video, wanted to have him here. Romeo Doubs, assigned from the Packers. I got Tyquan Thornton from the Chiefs. Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, and Treylon Burks. Now, the one thing here is maybe there isn't that big physical receiver. However, that is Treylon Burks. It all depends on if he's actually going to be a legitimate contributor. If he does still have that talent that got him drafted in the first round a few years ago. You've got speed with Doubs, and I understand that he does have a little bit of a case of the drops, which obviously isn't great, but it was really between Doubs and Alec Pierce would be another guy that you could potentially put in there. Contract's probably going to be about the same, so you could honestly swap them out if you wanted to. Tyquan Thornton I like because he showed a little bit of juice with Mahomes this year, adds a deep ball element. Luke, we've seen Luke improve, but he also isn't used to shouldering a certain level of responsibility. Jalen Lane still a little limited in what he can do. He also has been dropping the ball a lot. So I wanted to make sure that we had receiver depth because that is obviously one issue that has plagued the Commanders throughout this entire season. Like I said, if you like Pierce over Doubs, you could swap them out. Thornton, you could swap someone out of a similar level. But I thought that this receiver group just complemented each other very well because Terry does a lot of the intermediate stuff. Also a great contested ball guy. Thornton's got some deep speed. Doubs has deep speed, but he can also do the underneath stuff. Luke has pitched in different areas. Very good blocker. Lane's your speed guy. Brooks is a physical guy. I know that it's not – Terry's obviously the biggest star, and we're still not quite sure about where Terry stacks up in the NFL receiver hierarchy right now, especially going into his age 31 season. But I still like it because you get bits and pieces of different elements, and I just think that you could create a lot of good looks with this group. But that is going to do it for the offense. So let's move on over and let's talk about the defense. So let's start this off with defensive end / edge because that is also one of the most injured units on this Commanders team, and it's also one of the most controversial position groups. Now, I know your initial reaction to seeing this is going to be disappointment, so I am urging you, give it a minute or so, and you will see why I have constructed this group the way I did, okay? Don't click off. Don't go leave some hate comments. At least wait to see what I have coming up. And then if you think it's stupid, then feel free to go back and let me know in the comment section below. So let's see our 5 edge rushers here. Dorrance Armstrong, Jacob Martin. I re-signed Dietrich Wise for the size and the ability to set the edge against the run. Drake Jackson, who, by the way, the Commanders opened the 21-day window on him. I only put him there because maybe he shows something this year. If he doesn't, go get a guy for another small value contract. I'm sure you can find someone on the open market. And then Javonte Jean-Baptiste. Again, didn't go out there. I didn't sign Trey Hendrickson. I didn't sign Boye Mafe. Whoever you want to put on this list didn't make a big-time trade, although keep it in mind, we do have the Deron Payne piece that's hanging over all of this. But I went ahead and I went with these 5 because, number one, the salary cap is – I know we say the salary cap isn't real, and in some ways it's not. But in some ways it is, and I only had a limited amount of money to spend, but I promise you I made up for it. So I will tell you about how I did that in just a minute or so. Let's go to the defensive tackles for now. I have the Commanders keeping 5 of these boys. One more time, guys. Maybe it's not perfectly balanced. Maybe one of these guys ends up getting cut. You'll probably be able to figure out which one. But my 5 defensive tackles, Javon Kinlaw, Johnny Newton, a big free agency signing, getting John Franklin Myers from the Broncos, who has had an outstanding year, drafting Tim Keenan to be a run-stopping tackle from the University of Alabama, and then Eddie Goldman, I brought him back because he's actually looked solid in, I don't want to say limited, but not as many snaps as some of the starters. But I really like the size. If Newton can continue to develop, combined with having Franklin Myers there, you're going to get some interior pass rushing juice. Kinlaw has been a monster at stuff in the run. That's what you're drafting Keenan to do. Goldman's another big body who can help you out there. And if you go back to the defensive end group and you think about having Dorrance on one side and Wise on the other, that's a lot of size. You should be really good against the run. You throw in Jacob Martin there on third down or Javonte Jean-Baptiste. Get after the quarterback a little bit better. But let's talk about the linebackers because this is why I told you to just be patient when we were talking about the edge rushers. So I have 6 linebackers down for the Commanders. And I'll say right now, I did omit Nick Bellore from this, even though I had him actually in my salary cap, the way I constructed everything. I did sign him to the team. He's special teams full-time. So these are the 6 guys who could actually get on the field. So I don't want to wait any longer because this is probably my favorite unit on the team. Let's take a look. Quay Walker is our new middle linebacker. We've got Frankie Luvu. We got Kane Madrano, Jordan McGee, Arvell Reese was our first-round draft pick in my mock draft, and Sammy Omosigho coming in as a rookie, a guy with a lot of range who could play some different spots. Omosigho and McGee, they can give you flexibility. Heck, maybe Medrano can too. We haven't really seen him. But they could go strong. They could go weak. If you want to put them in the middle, we've seen McGee there. They can do a lot of different things for you. But this starting linebacking trio of Arvell Reese, Quay Walker, and Frankie Louvu. Now let me go back to the edge rushers here. So let's say we're playing a 4-3, okay? And we've got Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise, Javon Kinlaw, and John Franklin Myers. Let's say that's the front line. And then your linebacking trio, you got Quay in the middle with Louvu on one side and Arvell Reese on the other. The amount of pressure, the difference of looks that you could create with Louvu and Reese, and if you need to drop back Armstrong, I know there was a play where Joe Wick caught a lot of flack for that earlier this year, but the concept actually ended up working out. If you want to come with 5-man rushes, 6-man rushes, fire zones, man blitzes, this gives you so much flexibility, and that pass rush juice from the second level. Also keeping in mind, you now have Franklin Myers there as well to be a disruptive on the interior. The Commanders could probably lead the league in pressure generation with this unit. And you are heaping some extra responsibility onto your coverage guys, whether it's McGee on the field, whether it's Medrano on the field, whether it is Quay Walker on the field at a certain point. But there's also so much speed with this group at that second level that I love it. Even if you have to go man, it's a man blitz and the quarterback gets the ball out on a check down to the receiver, or it's a screen on the side and you're in a compromised position, you have the speed at the second level to completely make up for it. And I think this would be probably the most fun linebacking core in the NFL to look at. So again, just imagine a world in which you're 4-3. You've got Kinlaw and Franklin Myers with Dorrance Armstrong and whoever, Jacob Martin, Dietrich Wise, and Arvell Reese, Frankie Louvu, and Quay Walker behind them. Sign me up for that. Taking a look at my cornerback room, I have 5 of them. You guys might be you might seem a little underwhelmed, but I promise you this would be really solid. So let's take a look. I had the Commanders drafting D'Angelo Pons out of Indiana, Trey Amos, Mike Sainristil, brought back Noah Igbenogany on a small deal, and then Josh Jobe, I had them signing from the Seahawks. Reek Woolen also going to be a free agent this summer. You would have to fork over more money to get Woolen on the team. Maybe it fits a little bit better because he is more of a man corner. Jobe's more of his own. But I really like the draft pick of Pons here because he can play outside, even though he's only 5'9". Go watch how he did against Jeremiah Smith Jr. Go watch how he did against Emeka Egbuka. He can play outside. He can also play in the nickel, which gives you creates an interesting proposition because Sainristil looked better outside than he did inside. So both of these players give you flexibility to line up in the nickel or to line up on the outside. And they compete for it in camp, see who ends up looking better at what spot. You do have Jobe as well, and then you do have Amos as well. And in that case, you have 4 guys you legitimately want on the field. If the injury bug hits the way it did last year, then maybe you would probably need those 4 guys plus Noah Eyes, your 5th guy. But if it doesn't, or if you're just really confident in them, all of a sudden you've got a nice trade piece. It wouldn't be Amos. It wouldn't be Pons. It wouldn't be Jobe. It would probably be Sainristil, but I also do not think they're trading Mikey Sainristil. What I'm saying here is the flexibility allows you to do a lot of things. And with this current version of the Commanders, flexibility has actually been an issue. So now it becomes an asset with this group. With the safeties here, I got the Commanders keeping 6 of them. You've got Quan Martin joined by Jaquan Brisker as your starting safeties. Jeremy Reeves and Percy Butler are back. Tyler Owens is also there. And then Bud Clark, a really interesting ball-hawking safety late-round prospect out of TCU. One of my favorite late-round guys in the draft. He joins the safety core as well. With Brisker joining there, with Clark, even though he's probably not going to get on the field at all as a rookie. He's a very small guy, has to build out his frame, but he's got tremendous instincts. The Chicago secondary has done a phenomenal job of taking the ball away this year. You should be able to create more turnovers, and that's something the Commanders coaching staff is focused on, and I just like the upgrades, okay? Sue me. Your special teamers, not going to spend a ton of time here because, unfortunately, I did have to go a little bit cheap because started to run out of money a little bit, but Tyler Ott back as your long snapper. We signed Joey Sly. Welcome back, Joey Sly. Not the most accurate kicker in the world, and I recognize that, but hey, at least you can try to kick a 60-yard field goal if you want to with him. With Matt Gay, we don't really feel comfortable kicking beyond like 47 yards with him. So at least you can actually improve your accuracy a little bit while significantly extending your range. So that's good. And then Matt Ariza, I didn't have the money, according to this free agency simulator, to sign Tressway. I think Tress would be willing to sign some sort of team-friendly deal just because I don't think Tressway wants to leave. And again, one final time, we do have the cash overflows stored up from Deron Payne. So if you can trade Payne, the contract coming back is a small deal or it's no deal at all. All of a sudden, you've got the overflows. Tressway could easily be back on this team. And that's going to do it. That's the end of it. That's the special teamers. So I was just wondering, guys, what do you think of a team? What do you think of a team like this? Any players that I mentioned that you really like, that you really don't like? Anybody else that's going to be a free agent that you would like to see on the team? Did I get rid of too many veterans? Do you like the moves? Whatever your thoughts are on this video, I just thought it would be a really fun exercise. I am not expecting the Commanders next year to look anything like this, but I just wanted to go ahead and actually try to come up with some solutions instead of just talking about them in pure hypotheticals. Want to see how the numbers actually stacked up. But guys, I'm going to go ahead and head on out of here. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I appreciate you all being here with me. Make sure you do hit the like button. Also hit that subscribe button if you are new around here. And as I always say, I will catch you in the next one. Have a great day.